Jason Phillips here, CEO and founder of the Nutritional Coaching Institute and creator of the Coaching Mastery System, talking about the 5 stages of client conversion. Now, if we look around in the marketplace and we look at client attraction and we look at sales and we look at lead generation and funnels and all that stuff, like there's a lot of noise, and I understand it. It can be overwhelming at times. And I don't want to say that any of that is wrong, because everything absolutely plays a part in what you're doing. But I want to simplify the client acquisition process and really help you understand where you need to be putting your time and efforts, because it's not always about the first conversation, and it's not always about the sales conversation. There's a lot of steps in between that you need to understand. So I'm going to quickly run you through 5 very specific steps and exactly how to use them in your social media. Okay, so the first is going to be acknowledgement, the second is engagement, the third is intimacy, the fourth is sales, and the last is cash collection. All right, so the first is acknowledgement. When we look at acknowledgement, what is acknowledgement? Well, people got to know who you are. You could be the best at what you do, and I would be willing to bet there are some experts in this world that we simply don't know about. And I promise you, there's somebody with whatever results you're looking for, there's probably somebody with your solution. You just don't know about them yet, and that's because maybe they're not a great marketer. Maybe they don't know these 5 steps. But you have to get people to acknowledge you, and this is really the part of growing your audience. So what are you doing to become an attractive character? This really helps with acknowledgement. People connect to people. And if you're constantly out there and you're just talking about your services and you're just talking about your results and you're not letting people know who you are, people are only going to look at you as a service. And remember, people are very repelled by the notion of consistently buying, of consistently being pitched. They want to connect. I want to connect to, my buddy that's videoing this for me. I want to connect to my team that's here in the room with me. We like to connect. We like to be human beings. And so my question to you inside of acknowledgement is, what are you putting out there to show who you are as an attractive character? Now, to bolster this, I'll have you consider that you should write an amazing origin story. If you've been following me for any time, you've probably heard a couple, different origin stories. One of which would be my anorexia story, going from 118 pounds to ultimately being a cover model. Maybe you've heard the cover story of me being, overdrawn on my bank account 7 years ago on Thanksgiving Day, and then going through the Thanksgiving miracle of $500 randomly showing up in my account, propelling me to being a millionaire inside of the next year. Either way, you're gonna connect to me as a person. At that moment, I'm not talking to you about any tactics that I use. I'm not sharing any advice. I'm not selling anything. And I'm just helping you understand that I'm a human being. I'm just like you. I'm no different than you. I go through the same struggles as you. And I certainly have been through a lot of the struggles that perhaps you're currently going through. That is acknowledgement. Now, when somebody knows who you are, we gotta have a conversation. We can't just be like, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. That doesn't work. We gotta have a conversation. Everything starts with a conversation. Could you imagine walking into Times Square in New York and seeing all these people, and you could be the cowboy, like in your underwear, like playing the guitar, and they now see who you are, but then you can't just say, hey, buy from me, right? You gotta have conversations. So you're not gonna be the cowboy in your underwear. You're gonna go into a crowded setting, but you're gonna have conversations. When people connect to your origin story, they wanna know more. Give them an opportunity to know more. Have conversation starters. Now, a lot of people mess this up so bad. Their way of engaging is they're putting out content. They're consistently telling people how to do things. And remember, conversation is a two-way street. Instead of consistently telling people, do this, do that, do this, do that, and by the way, that's what your content is. Your content of how to do things, how to carb cycle, how to do keto, whatever. It's just how. You're just cramming information down people's throats, and nobody just likes to receive all the time. People are humans. They like to speak about themselves too. You need to be asking open-ended questions. And I call this outbound inbound. When you can create outbound messaging that actually creates inbound responses and asks for inbound responses, that is engagement. That's how you facilitate comments on your social media. That's how you facilitate connection between you and potential clients. A really good example of that is recently I ran a promotion. I told people, hey, I made $100,000 in 1 hour. Do you want to know how I did it? Now, if I was just cramming information down your throats, I would have made that same post. I would have told you exactly how I did it, and you probably would have been like, cool, thumbs up, and you would have just gone on about your day. But instead, I used the outbound inbound messaging. I created an outbound message that I did something elite, right? I created $100,000 in an hour. And I asked you a simple question. You want to know how I did it? Your response was, yes, I definitely want to know how I did it. And that was my cue to move you to the next step of conversion, which was intimacy. I took all of those leads and I moved them to a private conversation. We didn't talk publicly. We moved to a private message, a direct message, the DM, if you will. And inside of that DM, I asked questions. I want to know more about you before I share anything that I do. Because again, it's not just information sharing. It's connection. It's us having conversations. We're in an intimate environment. I got to know you as much as you know me. And so inside of that intimate environment, you want to make sure as much value as you are giving, you're also asking, you're also understanding, how can I serve this person the best? So an example of intimate environments, not just DMs, would be your email list, your Facebook group. But those are not platforms where you're solely distributing information. This is where almost every marketer goes wrong. I understand we all have to get our message out there, but it's a loud, noisy marketplace. If you're trying to simply be louder than everyone else and you're simply just trying to distribute information, you're going to lose. Instead, I want you to focus on connection and intimacy. I want you to deeply connect to your target client. I want you to be able to ask questions. The more you understand them, the more you understand their core desires, the more you can actually create messaging that aligns with what they want, with what they're willing to buy. And that's what intimacy is all about. And at some point in that intimate environment, what's gonna happen is you're gonna have the opportunity to take the conversation a step further. You're going to ask, and this is extremely important, you're gonna ask that you move this to a sales conversation, that the conversation now revolves around investment in a service or a product. Now you can't just randomly show up and be like, hey, we're in the DM, so that means I'm gonna pitch you. That's a surefire way of getting shot down. Instead, you're gonna talk, you're gonna connect, you're gonna ask those questions, you're gonna say, hey, by the way, I think I can solve your problem. Can I tell you a little bit more about it? And that question is now the gateway of moving to sales. That's the intimacy to sales movement. Now, once you're in sales, obviously you gotta be good at what you do. And this is where scripts do come into play. This is where NLP comes into play. This is where self-confidence comes into play. But more importantly, this is where having a really good product and a really good offer comes into play. I've met a lot of very great salespeople, but if you're pitching an offer that's terrible, you're never going to convert. So sales is far more than just scripts, and I know scripts are talked about a lot. Sales is a combination of having an amazing product that answers and solves a very painful problem and is sold with a very compelling script. And when all those things are done correctly, you're gonna collect the cash. You wanna collect the cash fast, you wanna collect it efficiently, and you wanna make sure you're collecting cash that is concurrent with the value that you are providing for the client. And my friends, if you obey these 5 steps of conversion, I promise you everything will change in your marketing. You'll start putting a better message out. You'll start having more engaged conversations. You'll start having more sales conversations, and ultimately, you'll start collecting more cash. Now, if you wanna know more about how to collect more cash, I want you to do me a quick favor. Give me a thumbs up on this video, let me know that you loved it, and go ahead and subscribe to our channel so we can keep making sure that you stay up to date on all of the amazing content that we're bringing to you. But more importantly, click the link below this video and get yourself the nutrition coaching cheat sheet. All right, along with all the amazing tactics, the education, the application that I've used to create amazing results in the nutrition coaching space, you're also going to get access to the coaching mastery system. The exact steps I've used to grow and scale businesses far beyond $100,000 in this industry, and the same steps you can use to grow and scale yours. Your free gift as a simple token of my gratitude for choosing impact over everything.